What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. We've got some moves. Griffin Canning signed with the New York Mets. You know we're going to talk about it and tell you why we love the move so much. We got Anthony Goes. We got Luis F. Ortiz. Jesus Luzardo traded in division from the Marlins to the Phillies, so we're going to talk a little bit about the pitching market. And then the biggest thing of all is going to be talking about Pete Alonso, because the first base market is moving, and the one guy who's not is Pete Alonso. So we have a lot to say there. Before we get going into it, call to action for all you guys. 70% of you who watch the podcast on YouTube are not subscribed. See that red subscribe button? Click it, subscribe. It helps us out a ton. We're trying to reach 7,500 subscribers by the new year. There's a ton of you that aren't subscribed. Just click the subscribe button. You'll see the episode every time it comes out. It'll be on your feed. Really do appreciate it. And if you're listening to us on audio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, same thing. Subscribe. Download the podcast. It really does help us out. You guys don't understand how much it does. And without further ado, James, a couple days before Christmas, Mets got a tiny little stocking stuffer here with Griffin Canning. What were your initial reactions? Because I feel like they were spread all over the place on Twitter of like it, hate it, what the fuck are the Mets doing? David Stearns is sleeping.
First initial reaction was just annoyed with us because we always like do these podcasts late at night just to make sure we can catch everything for you guys. And we'd finish recording like 20 minutes before this happened. I was like, oh, you have to be kidding me. I was like, you want to go back on? You're like, no, we got it next time. I'm like, all right, fine, next time. But I think a lot of Mets fans are a little bit angsty with the way this offseason's been going, like since we got Juan Soto a few weeks ago. And a lot of Mets fans specifically angsty about the rotation and more so the top of the rotation. So seeing Griffin Canning, who a lot of especially beat writers and other Mets people pointed out was like statistically the worst pitcher in baseball last season. He was. But You can't be the worst pitcher in baseball unless you throw 170 innings. I think that was a huge deal. When I saw that Griffin Canning threw 170 innings last year after being injured over and over and over again for this entire portion of his career, I was like, oh, that's a really good thing. I'm like, oh, that's a really nice workload. The fact that he got to, after being 130 the year before, 170, his first year of fully clean health that he seemingly has ever had in his career, that's a really nice thing. I do think there's some, I don't know, we're not going to pretend that Griffin Canning is going to become a superstar frontline starter in this Mets team, but there's a lot of stuff about Griffin Canning's game that I think that the Mets can use and mold, and for $4.5 million can be an incredible value that we're going to look back on in July. Be like, nice, Griffin Canning's a 3.60 ERA in multiple roles. Like, I'm really happy we signed him.
I think it's funny because last offseason it was Severino, it was Manaea, and it was Adrian Hauser for everybody who forgot. Montas and Clay Holmes feel like the Severino Manaea of like, get some guys in here that's going to fill our cheap pitching in that price range. And then Adrian Hauser was like $4 million last year, for those of you who don't remember as well. Feels like Griffin Canning's Adrian Hauser. If he stinks, he's gone. David Stearns doesn't care. They'll get rid of him. If he's any good, even better because he's free. I think at the back end of the rotation, that's probably not the likely landing spot for him as of right now. He's more of the depth starter, but I think he could definitely be used as one of those last arms out of the bullpen at the absolute worst. And again, for $4 million for a starting pitcher who threw 95, 96 miles an hour, you might be able to squeeze some juice out of him in the bullpen, and anything you can get would be useful. I think it was also a little bit lazy to call him the worst pitcher in baseball. Like you said, throwing 170 innings like that's pretty impressive in of itself. And also he was with arguably the worst pitching development organization all of baseball with the Los Angeles Angels. They have not developed a pitcher in years, it feels like. I think Shohei Ohtani is the best one, and I wouldn't give them credit for developing him. So you go to LA, you die. That's what happens.
I think Ohtani specifically said, too, that he made all of his advancements going outside the organization, the Angels. And I think Reed Detmers also said the same thing. I think he gave a quote to Eno Saris, the Athletic, saying that, like, I realized I had to bring my development and put it on my own shoulders, which is a real slap in the face of the organization he plays for. But it's a big deal, I think, when you're able to grab a pitcher from one of these organizations that we know isn't good at developing, because you know there's still some upside left. When you sign a guy who's already been a member of the Astros, the Dodgers, the Rays, the Guardians, you know that they've already made all the necessary tweaks they could possibly make to get them as good as possible. Canning is tweakless. Yeah. Canning is tweakless. Like he's a lot of upside.
No
left
tweaks.
No tweaks. Never made the tweak yet. But it was a second round draft pick. He had pretty good prospect pedigree. He's dealt with a ton of injuries, and I think to me, there's some pretty obvious things that the Mets can do to enhance his repertoire and kind of add to what he does. The number one thing, this is such an easy one, he threw his fastball last year 40% of the time. It was his most thrown pitch by a good amount, and it was a absolutely horrific pitch across the board. It got murdered. 530 slugging against his fastball last year.
Holy shit.
It allowed 16 home runs in general.
So many.
200 balls were put in play off of this fastball. 16 of them left the yard. And that was his most thrown pitch. And even based on the pitch specs, it's not a good pitch. It's only 93 miles an hour. It's what's called a dead zone fastball, which means exactly how he releases the ball and how he throws it. It goes exactly to the spot that the hitter expects it to go. So they will never, ever, ever miss that pitch. And they did not miss that pitch last year. I'm grabbing the whiff rate right now. It was 14%. So, and this was his most thrown pitch. So I think step one, we're going to stop throwing that fastball.
Or throw it less.
Throw it less, or maybe they're going to try and find a way to make a tweak on it, add an inch of IVB, see if they can get some velocity on it, but that's less likely. I think the most likely thing that's going to happen with Griffin Canning is that he's going to work on developing a sinker. He messed around with it a little bit last year. He has a little bit in the past, but he has a very good slider that kind of has that like super hard gyro shape that drops a lot, kind of like a death ball. He has a pretty okay curveball, and he has a nice changeup. I think if you add a sinker to that mix, and maybe if we get all of that together and possibly add a sweeper to that mix at the end of the day, I think suddenly you have a guy that can keep the ball on the ground, get a lot of soft contact, and be a pretty good pitcher. I was looking at it before we started here. I was talking to my cousin about it. We were hanging out before. He's a big baseball head too, ball knower. He profiles weirdly similarly, this is going to sound crazy, to Jordan Montgomery.
That is crazy, yeah.
He's a couple inches shorter than Montgomery, but they both have like a crazy over-the-top release, not a lot of life in their fastball, and that mix of breaking balls. Montgomery has that power sinker that he comes at you with, I think, and he has that death ball shape on his gyro slider. So I think you mix those together, you just have a soft contact guy who might be able to max out at like, I don't know, 20, 22% strikeout rate, and suddenly that's a piece as a swing man in the Mets bullpen. I'm not telling you who Griffin Canning is going to become a frontline pitcher. I'm not even telling you he's going to be a trustworthy 3 or 4. But I'm saying that for $4 million, I think there's a good chance this winds up as a deal. And if not, you just get rid of him.
Yep, it's that simple. They also brought in a couple of more pitchers since we last spoke to you guys. Anthony Goes, which I know, James, this is your guy right here. What do you got on him?
Dude, I love Anthony Goes. I love Anthony Goes, but mostly because, well, one, it's stuff, and two, it's story. Like, I just love a crazy story. I don't know if some of the older messed up listeners would remember this, but again, I'm thinking about our age as older messed up people. Anthony Goes was supposed to be the headliner in the original Mets Blue Jays trade for R.A. Dickey. That wound up being Noah Syndergaard and Travis d'Arnaud. But Ghost was the first guy in that deal as like a hyper athletic center fielder. It was going to be like a table setter as the Mets were trying to like figure out their new leadoff hitter after Jose Reyes. Didn't work out. He went to the major leagues, the Blue Jays, flamed out as an outfielder, came back a few years later as a pitcher, started gassing 100 miles an hour, but had no idea where it was going. Just made a couple little tweaks, inched up, and then boom, right when he started to get his feet under him, the pandemic hit. He got knocked out of it. He talked about becoming really good friends with Adam Simber in the Guardians organization, and that Simber, I think, and his wife took him in to where they lived in Arizona in the offseason so he could keep training, and he was doing odd jobs. He was like driving a truck, doing a bunch of crazy stuff. And then he caught back on. And then as the season was going that year, he got an invitation to the Olympic team.
Yes.
And he was on that Olympic team in 2020 that had David Robertson, Edwin Jackson. And he said that those two guys specifically took him under their wing and was like, he was having like confidence issues. He wasn't really a pitcher mentally yet, even though he had the stuff. And he said Robertson specifically was like, I wish I could do what you do, dude. Like, you're awesome. And then he got to that Olympics. He felt really good after. He got to the major leagues after with the Guardians. Pitched pretty well. He still had command issues, but he was throwing 100 miles an hour from the left side with a nasty slider. Got hurt last year, and then it got hurt 2 years ago. Came back last year. He lost 2 ticks on the fastball, but still 96 with a nice slider. Like, this is someone who's a dog, who's worked his way up, changed positions midway through his career, and got back to the major leagues, which is super, super cool. But just another one of these classic dart throws that David Stearns likes to do, where I'm going to give you a shot. You have an invitation to camp. I do not know what's going to happen. It's no risk and only reward from us as a team.
It's the opposite of Rick Ankiel. Rick Ankiel went pitcher hitter. He's like outfielder to pitcher now. I'm very interested to see what Goes has. I've seen him in the Olympic stuff. I think he played in the Premier 12 maybe as well one of those years, and he was just throwing upper 90s from the left side. Yeah. You can't really find much of that in Major League Baseball.
He's also a hoss. If you watch him pitch, like he's big.
Oh
dude.
Yeah, he was a big prospect. So
yeah, huge prospect. But like doing this, then the other guy we got, Luis F. Ortiz. He's been injured a couple times in his career. Hasn't really pitched that much in major leagues, 30, 40 major league innings. He also got Tommy John last July, so I think there's going to be like a 1+1 deal where see if we can keep him in the organization for 2 years, see what we can get. Maybe he just comes back and gives us a couple innings in August, September when we know the pitching's getting tight. East-west guy, sweeper, sinker, changeup, kind of a sidearm release. See, again, someone who's just like is a pure play. Just see if you can coax some more stuff out of him.
Yeah, I wasn't particularly excited about Luis F. Ortiz at all. I was just like, all right, whatever. He's a triple A pitcher, whatever. Sounds good. Then we saw the Phillies and the Marlins make a trade today. Jesus Luzardo going from the Marlins to the Phillies in division for Starlin Caba and Omarion Boyd. Which initial reaction, that's nothing.
I broke that news to you.
You broke that news to me. I woke up to the news of Jesus Luzardo being traded for nothing. I know Starlin Caba is like a top 100 prospect or whatever, but as an 18-year-old, he got to A-ball last year, which is impressive, and he's still basically a baby playing against professional baseball players. But He's an amazing fielder. He's got a great glove. There's no doubt about that. He'll be a shortstop if he ever makes the major leagues. But he's a tiny guy, and I just don't see the hitting ever coming around for a guy like him. He had great plate discipline, which I think people like a lot. He walked more than I think he struck out. But to me, like, the bat's just so weak, and I don't see where he ever becomes a major league capable hitter where that glove can now be the difference maker kind of thing.
I don't disagree with you, but he's the kind of high floor prospect that team like the Marlins that kind of fails a lot of player development probably wants to get in their system because you're like, all right, this will be a major league shortstop, and if he hits, that's our upside.
I wonder, again, I would love to, maybe we can have Matt Eddy talk about this the next time he comes on, but why for a team like the Marlins who does have a weaker farm system do you want more floor guys? Why would you not punch for crazy ceiling guys? Is it just you don't believe in your development? Is that what it is?
Or maybe it's just about setting a organizational foundation because their crop of position players and their system's bad.
Horrendous. They have like the worst farm in all of baseball. It's so bad. The other thing is the Amarion Boyd guy. I know there's people around the league that are like, oh, he's like a top 20 prospect. He's terrible from what we've seen. There's nothing. I don't know much. There's nothing there. Like the numbers were not great. To me, this is mind-boggling, and I think there's some rumors that Luzardo's medicals are not the cleanest, and we know that he's got major injury history, like every single year, injury. But it just felt like a light ask. The other thing is, I don't know what the Mets comp would be for this because we don't have that super high floor, great fielding guy that it looks like the Marlins were after.
Yeah, our comp, again, I think it's not about a comp of being like a super high floor fielding guy. I think it's just about having like a guy with not much ceiling who's like a clean 50 future value. When we say 50 future value, that's on the 20 to 80 scouting scale. 50 means like you are a major league regular, but not flashy, nothing special.
Yeah.
So I think like our mix for that, which is total opposite archetype, but like, again, a little bit better, but so different, like Ryan Clifford. I don't know. Like, I think, but again, he's past this point, but like Mauricio's kind of like a 50 future value guy, but I think with more ceiling, I don't know, like our boy Morabito, I think the hope is that he's this guy because he could be a defensive first center fielder, and then this happens. I don't know. They want Rylan Thomas to just command man center field as a 24-year-old.
I think a big part of it too is he was 18, so like there's still a lot of time there where the guys we mentioned are a little bit older, but
and there are elite carrying traits here. Like he's
great fielder.
Really fast. He's a great fielder, and just the fact that he's this young and he has more walks and strikeouts in seasons of professional baseball, like that is something.
Yes.
I just don't like Starlin Caba, like who like he profiles in the future as like at a 10 homer 260 guy at best.
What is he like?
But with great defense.
Yeah, I mean that's at his best right now. Was he profile as like floor like Brian Rocchio, I guess?
Like if you want to go back in time, like but not this level, of course, over a full career, like an Omar Vizquel. It's a glove first profile, and then you kind of hope the other stuff is gravy. But like, he had an ISO under 100 in the complex.
Yes.
It's shocking, truthfully.
Yeah, it's not particularly great. So
he's listed on Fangraphs as 5'9", 160.
That's literally me.
Yeah, there you go.
I got weight on him actually.
That's you if you had any twitch in your body whatsoever.
Oh, but not a single twitch.
It's a 30 raw power, 20 game power, but they have the upshot for a 70 hit tool. So again, like this is somewhat of an enticing prospect, but I think most of this probably speaks about Luzardo than Caba.
Yes.
The fact that I've talked about Luzardo in the show a few times that he's like in a precarious spot with just simply his velocity. If he goes underneath 95 miles an hour, he's not a successful pitcher anymore. And he's been oscillating around that for the last few years. And he's had lots of injury issues. And last year he was completely unproductive in every single way. He was horrible when he stepped on the mound. So I think maybe that's just a scary thing. Like we're looking at the last 250 innings for Jesus Luzardo, where he has a 1-2 whip, which is like that's not that exciting of a guy, and an ERA over 4. Like I don't know. Like it's like I don't know.
Are we just like not seeing it's like, oh, it's like David Peterson kind of like it's just like, but he's Peruvian, so people think he's better. I don't know. Like
and a high prospect. He wasn't really a high prospect.
No, he definitely has more pedigree, but like, he's had high highs, but also low lows. So he's definitely a little more volatile. And that's probably why the ask wasn't much. And if you're the Phillies, you make that move every single time. You don't care about Starlin Caba. You're going to spend money on shortstops for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I guess it's just a question of who else was in the mix. And again, like I think people are like, where's David Stearns? Like, why is he making this move? The Mets farm system, we got top 10 prospects coming out day after Christmas. You guys will have that one. But I think while we're building it up really well, and again, not that the Phillies have depth of farm system. I think Dave Dombrowski just trades every single prospect he has. That's how he's made his mark on.
He's there to win World Series, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so like, and that helps them with that. But I don't know. There wasn't a good comp in the Mets system for what the Marlins got back for this. And even if it was, I think it could have it would have been someone who is much closer to the major leagues as Starlin Caba is. So
Yeah.
that's why I guess they weren't in on it.
Yeah, and it's okay. I don't know, Luzardo, again, major injuries. I don't think that's the guy Mets fans should be clamoring for by any means.
No, especially because Mets fans are adamant that the Mets need the frontline starting pitcher. I think we all know Jesus Luzardo, that's not who he is anymore. He could be quite a good starting pitcher. He adds great depth to that Phillies rotation, though, that might be the deepest and best rotation in baseball, truthfully. But I don't know what Jesus Luzardo is. I'll eat crow in July if he's buzzing 97 again, but like I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, no, totally. And then to speak about the rest of the market right now, first base, the last 24 hours have been crazy. We saw Christian Walker sign with the Houston Astros. I know you got opinions on that. You saw Paul Goldschmidt sign with the New York Yankees. Josh Naylor got traded from the Guardians to the Diamondbacks for Slade Ciccone. Then Carlos Santana signed about 5 minutes later after that news sign with the Cleveland Guardians. Nathaniel Lowe trade to the Nationals. This all happened in the last 24 hours. These are all first basemen. We were told the first baseman market did not exist at the beginning of the week. And within 24 hours,
single way.
Five of the 10 best first basemen in baseball, or 15, whatever, just moved or changed teams. Like, absolutely crazy. Moral of the story is Pete Alonso's got no fucking market. I don't know what he's going to do.
It keeps getting to the spot where like seems like Pete's being backed into a corner, and like we've said it in the show before, but it's like, is he going to swallow his pride, or are we going to stretch this thing into March? Like those to me seem like the only two options, which I don't like either of those very much, especially not for Pete. But I think he has to look around right now and be like, I'm just not going to get the deal I thought I was going to get. I'm definitely not going to get the deal that I declined a year ago, which also super sucks for him.
Now this was always a fear, and I know like Scott Boras is amazing, but he's also sucks for these reasons where Pete, I think maybe with a different agent, takes that extension that was given last year by Billy Epler.
Sure.
Because that was good value from both sides, and maybe wasn't the years that Pete wanted. And again, we've been saying on the podcast that we believe that Pete wants more years, not because it's like I want more years, more money thing. It's like, I don't want to sign a contract again as a free agent. There's no way he likes being a free agent and the uncertainty. We've been around him before. He's a big goofy guy. And you heard Trevor May. He was like, he wants to be in New York. He loves it there. This is killing him right now that this is going on.
That's a problem too, though, especially from Scott Boras' perspective, where it's like, don't tell them you want to be in New York. Never say you want to be in New York. Never mention to anybody that's where you want to be. You'll willing to go anywhere, whoever gives you the best contract. That's just not how Scott Boras operates. I think that this marriage of these two might have been something that no one really thought through. And like with the last few years, like Pete Alonso, I know since he came up, I think he's the most home runs in the league, probably almost the most RBIs.
I think maybe behind Judge now. That might be the only guy.
And like Scott Boras always like Pete Alonso it shouldn't be regarded in free agency as a first baseman. He should be regarded as a premier power hitting run producer in the major leagues. But you are a first baseman, Pete Alonso. Like that's what it is. Like there's no other way to evaluate.
This isn't early 2000s baseball where you could be like, oh yeah, that is a good point. Everyone's like, well, we have information that tells us he's a first baseman. So
yeah, like he just puts down the Ryan Howard contract, and we're like, exactly why we're not going to give you that contract. It's just. I don't know. I do think it is interesting that all we were hearing is about how the first base market is dead, and then one domino fell, and then every single one fell immediately after that.
Well, dude, Nolan Arenado started it because Arenado declining the trade to the Astros seemingly was going to be Paredes to first, Arenado to third. Him declining that, the Astros were like, all right, fuck that. We're moving on to the next one. Christian Walker, let's go. That was huge because I think there was a real worry that the Astros could be interested in Pete Alonso. It made a lot of sense as well. But when you trade Kyle Tucker because you don't want to pay him, you're probably not going to pay Pete Alonso. So.
No, for sure, especially when you're worried about paying him for like multiple years. I guess unless he comes back to the thing where then they want to sign Pete Alonso the same contract we want to sign him for, which is like a max 3-year deal, probably opt-outs after the first and second years. At which case, he's probably going to just stay in New York.
Yeah.
Probably give him some juice after that because of taxes in Texas. Now maybe the Rangers might be involved after they traded Teddy Lowe, but I kind of don't think so because why they got Jake Berger. But I don't know. The Astros, to me, honestly, like this offseason to me a signal to pure end of the dynasty.
Oh,
it's
over. Yeah.
This is just complete loser energy from them. They're paying first basemen who are like 30s, two first basemen who are over 35 years old, $40 million, and traded Kyle Tucker to help their future. Like, this is one of the 10 best players in baseball, and you want to compete for a championship, and you're getting him off your team, and now you have the worst outfield in baseball.
Not even close, yeah.
It's worse than the White Sox. It's worse than the A's. It's worse than the Rockies.
It's way worse than the A's.
It's way worse than the White Sox, too.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the worst outfield in baseball, the Houston Astros. So congratulations to you guys. You have 2 first basemen, and you have no outfielders. Great job building this team. But I thought Goldschmidt to the Yankees was a pretty good deal for what they want. Andy Martino, I give him credit. People were talking about Pete. I give him a lot of credit. I think he's been really good the last couple of years. A lot better than I ever thought he was.
He has been better.
people were talking about Pete Alonso to the Yankees, and he's like, have you looked at all the first basemen the Yankees have ever had?
Yeah.
None of them look like Pete Alonso, besides Giambi, which was like kind of a random thing, that one-off thing. It's always these more of these athletic first baseman type who play good defense, have a little bit more of these like cerebral leadership qualities. And I was like, it's actually true. I actually look back at the first baseman. It's like, yeah, Teixeira, Rizzo, like it actually plays. And then the Naylor trade, I thought that was the one where maybe I would have liked the Mets kick the tires on that, because I think Josh Naylor is a tremendous player, and I think it fits the Mets timeline where it seems like they don't want to put a ton of money on the salary cap, especially as elite players like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. enter free agency. But he did go for Slade Ciccone, who I think the Mets comparison for Ciccone, again, would have been someone between Peterson and McGill.
Yeah.
And there isn't really someone between those guys.
It's probably McGill more, because Ciccone really hasn't had like success at the major league level where Peterson has. We just know that Peterson maybe isn't a 3 flat ERA pitcher and he's more close to that 4 range. But I think he's their McGill in that way, where like Ciccone, I think, was a first-round pick, even maybe.
High pick, good prospect.
Yeah, from the University of Miami in 2020. I know that. But
yeah, 33rd overall in 2020.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my draft right there. But like,
the other thing about Ciccone, though, doesn't make him like McGill, is that he does have multiple off-speed pitches he can command and has good stuff on well. Yeah. Like, Ciccone has an arsenal that makes me think that he will be successful at the Cleveland Guardians, whatever role they put him in.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's a plus slider, it's a passable fastball, it's a pretty good curveball, it's a pretty good changeup. Like, I don't know how they're going to maneuver all that and make that work, but it's not nothing for 1 year of Josh Naylor. But again, similar to the Astros, like, if I'm the Guardians fan, I'm like, we just traded our second best hitter.
But then,
like, this sucks.
They signed Carlos Santana, and how much worse is Carlos Santana than Josh Naylor in a vacuum?
But that's saying, like, I was saying in that moment, but that feels good, like that. But that was also the great pivot. And now the thing is that while we're saying Pete is out of suitors, the Mets are also completely out of backup plans.
Correct. Yeah, Pete's the first baseman. That's it.
No, like, this is absolutely a standoff right now. We're in the saloon and we're both waiting to draw our pistols because there's no other option for either of these people. It's just about how much either can do.
There's also a world where Pete might be the backup plan, and I think we got to talk about
the primary plan.
Alex Bregman could be that guy. I still think.
I still don't think so. It still doesn't make sense in my brain. The Mets would spend the money on that.
I'm not saying it's the best option by any means, but the Bregman rumors with the Mets are still floating around. He is a David Stearns-like player. A guy who's going to give you good defense and be consistent at the plate, get on base, doesn't strike out. That fits the Stearns archetype.
Can I give you my hypothesis in the Bregman rumors?
Yeah.
I think it's to scare Pete.
Ooh, okay.
I think the Mets have an offer on the table for Pete Alonso, but it's an offer they want. It's the 1 + 1 + 1.
Yeah.
It's 3 for 77.
It's the Bellinger Chapman. Yeah.
Yes. And they're like, take the offer, dude. He's like, I'm holding out for 5, I'm holding out for 6, whatever the Boras telling him. So all the Mets are keep doing is putting out these Bregman rumors, because there's been no leaks from this front office. We don't hear anything ever.
I mean, Juan Soto signed in the middle of and we were like, what? Where did that come from?
And the only other time the Mets have been directly linked to any player in the market besides Juan Soto or Pete Alonso was Adames, who was the same rumor.
Yeah.
So it keeps to me feeling like the Mets have a contract on the table for Pete Alonso, and we're like, we want you back. This is what the market's telling us you're worth. It works for everybody, dude. And he's like, I'm waiting. But that's why they keep peppering, trying to scare him into signing.
I was going to say, or the other thing scaring him into signing, David Stearns is a stone cold killer. He's insane. And he's like, let's put that out there. We're not offering Pete. He's going to come to us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or maybe they have these offers on the table to both of these guys. Because they probably, at the end of the day, want whatever corner infielder will sign the right contract of players that are of a certain caliber, which are these two players right now. So if one of you guys comes to us and is willing to sign the Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman 1 + 1 + 1 deal, 1 year, 3 year deal with 2 opt-outs, you're on the Mets. You're going to be hitting in one of the best lineups in baseball. Mm-hmm. You're going to have an owner who's willing to help you in any way possible. We have incredible player development, and we're going to have an amazing organization system for you. Whoever signs this deal, sure, you might not get what you want right now. You could play for us for 1 year and very much get what you want next year. Or maybe we can give you some more money after an opt-out. You know what I mean? Like, as the market keeps moving, things dictate that. So I think these two guys are 30 years old. They both do a lot of things really well. They both have plenty of flaws as well. We don't really know how either of them are going to look when they're 35 years old. I don't think David Stearns has any intention of finding out what they look like when they're 35
Doesn't seem
years
like
old.
it.
So just to me feels like this is all a game of chicken between Alonso and the Mets, and then a tiny little bit of Alex Bregman. But I still think that if Bregman is steadfast and wants more than a 3 or 4 year deal, I know he fits the Stearns mold, but that contract doesn't fit the Stearns mold. To me, it doesn't seem likely the Mets give a guy who has some yellow, reddish flags in his power profile that kind of contract
No,
just for third base defense.
Yeah, I agree. The length is the biggest thing for Bregman, and it's obviously the biggest thing for Alonso too. Here would be nice.
She said.
Yeah, it is. Be nice if we got a little Dylan Betances Merry Christmas present under the tree, a little Pete Alonso on Christmas Day. I'm still holding out hope. Like, imagine the Mets just like they just dropped that on Twitter, like we've re-signed Pete Alonso. Merry Christmas. That'd be awesome. And then they put out, "Let's fucking go Mets." That would get me hype on Christmas.
I'll tell you this: your birthday is on January 15th.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a Pete Alonso resolution before then?
Fuck no. Pete's signing in February. Pete's signing in February after the Super Bowl.
After the Super Bowl, so after my birthday.
After your birthday, yeah. Well,
so you think my birthday's the line?
I think the Super Bowl is the line.
That's what, 17th?
I think it's like February 9th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's the week after.
Yeah.
Let me check. I have no idea.
Super Bowl 2025 is February 9th.
Okay.
I'm going to Puerto Rico, so I know, yeah.
Right so after. February 9th is the line, before or after February 9th?
Yeah, and I'm taking after. I think your birthday might be the day.
February 4th, that's birthday gift for me.
Valentine's Day?
Yeah, Valentine's Day. We love Pete. This doesn't seem like it's going to be easy for these exact reasons. I think that is fully and honestly playing into David Stern's hand perfectly.
Major. I just texted a friend. I think he's handling the offseason perfectly.
Incredibly.
Perfectly. We're not rushing after anybody. Again, to bring it back, fill it all up here. Everyone wants the ace. No one's linked to Corbin Burns right now. There's nothing on that guy whatsoever. There's nothing on Manaea. There's nothing on Flaherty. There is literally no reason to rush to sign one of these guys right now because there's no sense of urgency from anybody across the league. This is almost like, what's it called when you like conspire with everybody? What's that called? Collusion. Feels like a little collusion.
We don't say that.
What? We're not part of the organization anymore. We can say it. We can say collusion.
But I'm just saying, I don't want to accuse anyone of anything here. I don't want to accuse anything. I don't know what the owners are doing. But there's also another caveat with this stuff that I think is weighing on the Mets' mind, where we've already signed one player to a qualifying offer. Juan Soto, of course. Well worth it. Goodbye draft picks. I don't care about you. If you sign a second player to a qualifying offer, whether that be Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, Nick Pivetta, I think Teoscar, Santander, probably those guys too. I don't think they're connected to him. I'm just talking about guys who have qualifying offers. Once you sign a second guy to a qualifying offer, no more penalties if you sign a third.
Oh.
So I think there's a world, again, where the Mets are trying to thread the needle here, where it's like, if you're going to sign another guy for a qualifying offer, it has to be like Soto. There's a pure impact player. Like, if Corbin Burns is willing to come down on his stuff, and we could, again, do like a Blake Snell deal to Corbin Burns, then yeah, you do that. And then if you do that, and now you've signed arguably the best pitcher on the market and for sure the best hitter and player on the market, and now there's no more qualifying offer stipulations, now you can start having some fun.
Yeah.
Now Teoscar Hernandez can realistically be your DH. Now Nick Pivetta can realistically be your number 3 starter. You don't feel as bad about making those moves. So I think that's something that's also a part of the CBA that not a lot of teams have ever ventured into, because not many people are willing to give up all these draft picks, sign these guys.
And you got to have a lot of money usually to sign guys who have qualifying offers. And
totally, they're good players.
Only in the last couple of years have the qualifying offer really like impacted the signing of players as much as it had, and it's because people don't want to give out these mega contracts or short-term contracts to lose a player like this.
And another part of it that's really important is that you have to be a good team that's losing good players. The fact that Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, Pete Alonso, Severino's already gone, the other two we're not sure, possibly are going, we're getting some picks back. So if you can lose some picks, recoup some picks, and do something that teams don't usually do, which is stop getting penalties to sign good players, because we've already signed 2 of them. Like, we're dealing with like an echelon of the CBA and no one contends with right now. And I'm sure everyone else keeping a close eye on it for the next negotiation. It's going to happen in 2 years and we lock out again. So I just think that this is why you get guys like David Stern, because he's just so locked in right now. He's so in control of this thing. It's incredible to watch. And there's still a lot of talent left on the board. I know it's been happening quick, so it feels like there's not much, and it definitely feels like he's sitting on his hands. I'm seeing Dumpster Dave and Sleepy Stearns everywhere.
Stearns, yeah.
It's a lot that's still going to happen with this team. A year ago, none of this looked like this.
Imagine saying Sleepy Stearns when he's out here signing Anthony Goes and Griffin Canning. I couldn't be me.
Brandon Waddell and Jared Young. We're building an organization right now.
This is a roster, please. Sleepy Stearns. He's making all the right moves. Pete Alonso, Met, yes or no, on December 23rd.
I've still said it every single time, yes. I don't think it's going to be friendly. I don't think it's going to be nice, but I think he's going to be a Met next year.
I think he will too. I still think it's just going to be around your birthday.
I'll tell you this too right now. If he's not on the Mets, pretend.
Yeah.
Which team could he play for?
Not a clue. It's got to be someone we're not thinking of.
Like who's willing to spend money that doesn't have a first baseman right now?
I was going through this with my dad. I was like, I genuinely don't know. Like, I know teams that could use him, but the Pirates are not going to give Pete Alonso a better contract than the Mets would. And why the hell would he go there for the same contract that the Mets would give him?
Yeah.
Pirates would be an amazing spot for Pete. He would be the king of that city. Him and Paul Skeens would run that place. But, like, they're not going to do that. And then, like, the Padres are kind of the other team, but they're not spending money. The Twins would be a team, but they're not spending money. Like,
also getting rid of money.
Yeah. So all the teams that make sense just aren't going to be able to give a better contract than the Mets and wouldn't probably do it to a first baseman anyway.
No, the only other one that, because of today's deal, would be the Texas Rangers. But I also just don't see them giving big money to Pete.
And the rumor was they were trying to cut costs as well. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And they did just trade a guy in his second year of arbitration for someone who's pre-arbitration. So it does make sense. They just saved like $10 million in that trade they made from Nathaniel Lowe.
That could be the Pete. That could be the Pete money. Maybe they're just stockpiling it right there.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that is it. Maybe we can get $15 extra million, but also then they got Jake Berger. Now, how many guys like Jake Berger and Pete Alonso
can't be on the same team? It's Daniel Vogelback all over again.
If someone has prescription for glasses and takes them off, and you see Jake Berger and Pete Alonso standing 50 yards away from you, you don't know who's who.
No shot.
You probably don't want both those guys on the team with Corey Seager, another guy they can't. Like it's getting tight, but it's also tight on the other side for the Mets because the only backup option right now are guys in the trade market, and the other team will know you're being chiseled. Like the only other guy in the trade market I think who's realistically available is Yandy Diaz.
Yeah, and I think
that's literally the only guy.
And I would rather have Pete.
Yeah, unless you give Jock Peterson a first baseman mitt,
which maybe you do. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
can Santander play first?
I mean, if you give him the glove, why not? Scott Hatterberg, baby. But I think it's just a situation where this is going to get uncomfortable before it gets comfortable. So I'm inviting Mets fans to accept that and revel in the fact that our general manager is trying to save us a couple $1 billion. Yeah. I guess I don't know. But again, not the same tries to go. I take that back. That's bullshit. But it's the fact that he's going to sign a contract for Pete Alonso that's the best for the team.
Yes, that works.
He's
for the
giving
Mets.
Pete Alonso a 5, 6, 7 year deal is just probably not the best for this team.
It's absolutely not the best for this team. We know that.
Yeah. So she's going to try to make this team as good as possible, both now and in the future, which he's always been steadfast about. So let's just keep trying to do that.
Yep. Little last thing here to talk about before we got to hear from Frankie Peppers. Lost a great one in the baseball world, a former New York Met, Rickey Henderson, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Honestly, I think it's nice that I'm starting to see people really give him the respect that he deserves. One of the great 25 best players to ever play the game. The speed, he played for so long. He stole 40 bases as like a 40-year-old.
He played 25 years in the major leagues.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable guy. If he played in this era of baseball, mega superstar. The attitude, the bat flips, he was walking around pulling the shirt, hitting the home runs, and playing amazing defense and throwing guys out and stealing 100 bags a year. I mean, he stole the base and he held it up in the air when he broke the record. He's like, I'm stopping the game. I just broke something. I did something crazy. I saw a clip where he was talking, or Harold Reynolds was telling a story about when in the 80s, Harold Reynolds was the only person in the American League not named Rickey Henderson to have the stolen base crown for a season. Rickey called him at the end of the season and was like, 60 stolen base. I'll break that by the All-Star break next year. You got lucky. And apparently he was like, Henderson here. And then he told him that and he just hung up. He didn't let Harold say anything.
There was another story that went around. First of all, he said that when he got the stolen base right, he picked the base up in the air. So Rickey Henderson also has the most runs scored in Major League Baseball history. But he got it on a home run, which is amazing. He drove himself in. And then when he rounded the bases and everyone was cheering because they knew he broke the record, he slid into home plate in the home run. Because that's just stuff Rickey Henderson did. I also my dad showed me a TikTok, which is just a funny sentence. My dad loves TikTok.
Funny sentence.
But Mike Greenberg was doing an interview way back in the day in ESPN radio. I think it was early 2000s, late 90s, Greeny. And he had Rickey Henderson on. And he was like, there was a time when you were with the A's that I forgot who the owner, the general manager was doing the books at the end of the year, and they found out that they had a surplus of $1 million that they knew they'd spent, but it hadn't been cash. They didn't know what happened to it. So he went to Rickey. He's like, we gave you $1 million bonus this year. And he was like, yeah, that's right. He's like, that was a check, right? He's like, yeah, that's right. He goes, did you cash that check? He was like, no, I framed it and hung it up in my house. $1 million in the 80s is a significant amount of money. That's probably most of his salary. And he was like, you wrote me a check for $1 million. I'm putting that on my wall.
Did you hear the John Olerud story?
I had that one written down, but tell it.
Yeah, so for people who don't know about this, rumor has it when Rickey Henderson played for the Mariners in 2000, he noticed the first baseman on their team, John Olerud, wore a helmet in the field instead of a baseball hat. Rickey went up to him and said, hey, I played with a guy in the Mets last year that did that too. Olerud replied, yeah, that was me, Rickey. We were teammates on the Mets last year. That's so awesome.
John Olerud had a 145 WRC plus that season.
It's arguably the best player on that team.
Mets went to the playoffs.
Yeah, he was so good. And Ricky's like, look, I had a guy on that team last year who did this. That's pretty crazy. He's like, that's me, dude. That's who it is. He's one of the baseball guys I wish I got to meet because he seems like just one of the all-time great players and all-time great guys.
Yeah, it was one of the best viral tweets by Rickey Henderson from this weekend for us from No Cut Card at Ball Up Top. So Rickey Henderson bat flips and pimped home runs, and pitchers couldn't even drill him because that meant he would be on third base in 3 pitches, LMFAO.
Yeah, I think he has the most stolen bases of third by like a wide margin as well. Could you imagine how many bases he would have stolen in this era when you can only pick off a certain amount of times and the bases are bigger?
I was going to say that too. Someone had a tweet about Ellie De La Cruz. Everyone freaked out about the 67 stolen bases this year. And they said that for Ellie De La Cruz, if Ellie De La Cruz stole these 67 bases for the next 14 years, he still wouldn't break Rickey Henderson's stolen base record.
Crazy. It's insane.
Yeah.
He's so
it's so cool. It's just there's never going to be another baseball player like Rickey Henderson. And one of the coolest things about this is that he was able to come back to Oakland this past season and throw the first pitch out for the last game.
Yeah, and it was Rickey Henderson Field in Oakland.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yeah, RIP Rickey Henderson, all-time great. Will be missed. Let's hear from Frankie Peppers. Let's see what he's got to wrap up this episode.
Let's go. I'm going to get Frankie out of my pocket real quick.
We haven't heard from Frankie in a while. I've been missing Frankie. I like that he tried. Did you message him or he said, James, I got something for you guys?
I tweeted him. I said, I miss you, Frankie. And he sent the message. So I'm happy that we're still having an open dialogue with Frankie Peppers.
Of course.
Because he's the GOAT. He's a legend. He's what makes this podcast. And the message he sent me text was, Happy holidays from Frankie Peppers.
Love to hear it.
Gentlemen, this is Frankie Peppers. How you doing? I know it's been a minute, and I hope you boys are having a really good lead up to your holiday season. All I want for Christmas is Juan Soto on the Mets, and all I want for Christmas is Pete Alonso to come back. And Santa Stearns, brought me one of the two. That was Santa Cohen, really, but Mets Santa got me one of the two. So let's see if we can go 2 for 2, and I don't get some lump of coal. It was a really interesting listen with Mr. Trevor May on the podcast. I'd like you to give Trevor May my best, please, and tell him that anytime he wants some bolognese, old Frankie will make Trevor May some bolognese anytime he wants. So hopefully the lucky bolognese I have been having winds up doing us some good. I really hope so. Anyway, boys, I hope you have very safe holiday seasons and a happy, healthy new year. I want to thank you both for giving me some space on this podcast, as you always do. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes in the next year, because I know you boys work really hard and you're doing great things. And I appreciate you both, and I hope you get to have a nice, happy, healthy holiday season and give a pretty person a kiss on the lips for New Year's. Thanks, boys.
Shout out Frankie for that one. A little scandalous there.
Look, kiss on the lips. I know we're having lentils again. That's a guarantee.
Lentils are a given, yeah, at the Shiano House New Year party. But I think that's all we got. I mean, you guys, thank you for being with us this past year. It's kind of funny recording this. It was a year ago that Mark and I got fired from the Mets. Yeah. Very close to Christmas, which was a nice touch. But happy holidays to everybody. It's been a great year together. We've grown a lot. We're excited to keep growing, get some good content. We got to meet Frankie Peppers, which changed everyone's year. Mets made the fucking NLCS, which was sick. We signed Juan Soto. What a year this has been for us. So we're excited to do it again.
This is what we thought we were going to finish 500. We made a run and got Juan Soto. I think that's about as almost good as it possibly could have turned out. But yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever holidays everybody's celebrating. Hope you enjoy it. Stay safe. We have an episode coming out later this week. Again, we're going to be doing our top 10 prospects each, me and James. So keep an eye
26 scheduled for.
There you go. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, probably hear from us after the new year. And
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in between now and then.
Yeah,
you never know.
The Mets make a move. We're obviously going to be doing an episode or anything like that. But
ready to go. I'm in Jersey. I got the microphone with me. We could do it.
I'll be bringing everything around with me too. So we'll be ready to roll. But if not, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, everything to everybody. And stay safe. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
See you guys next time. Let's go Mets.